So before we go over my wrist stretches, I just always say that. Well, I don't always say this is my first time saying it. First of all, I'm not a medical doctor or medical anything in whatsoever fashion. If you do this, it's just because you're like, hey, that looks like a good idea. Two, no credentials. Two is, yeah, that's it. Like, I have to preface this with, like, I have no degree in anything. Health related, at least. So why should people look at this and be like, hey, why does this work? How does it help? Yada, yada, yada. One, I'm older, so I've just been through a lot of shit in life, and this is the stuff that kind of worked for me in the past. Two, a lot of these stretches come from, basically, I've been lucky enough to have health insurance most of my life, and I've gone through physical therapy for a lot of different things, not my wrists, though, but whenever I go to physical therapy for anything, I do talk to my physical therapist or whoever I'm working with about any type of stretches, any type of routines, and all of that. I'm pretty inquisitive, and I kind of question and just discuss a lot of things. Martial arts stuff for a very long time. Obviously, when I did a lot of Aikido, which, say what you want about the system, it's a lot of throws and takedowns that have to do with wrists and that. So there's a lot of just wrist stretching and strengthening from that. And including just Wing Chun, sparring, all those other things. Like, all of my teachers that I've seen throughout all my life, they've all had their own wrist stretches and stuff like that. I guess, fourth, take it for what you will. I did do my 200 hours of yoga, whatever the fuck that means. But again, whenever I talk about not trying to hurt yourself, and especially this first part when I talk about compression versus stretching and or tension versus compression, stuff like that, kind of comes from there. And I guess lastly, it's the fact that I've always had a ludicrously high DPI in games. So everyone that watches me stream knows that I have, it's about 3/4 of an inch is a 360 for me, so I have about 50,000 DPI, I believe it's called. I'm not big into that, but we calculated it one day, like a couple years ago, and that's what I think it's at. eDPI, thank you. I not only use that for gaming, I use that for my personal computer, I use that for my work computer, so I'm constantly at a very, very high sensitivity for it's like 12, 16 hours a day for the last 20 years of my life. Probably 25 years of my life. So, while I have had wrist issues, I've always just done methods and techniques and all of that to help get rid of them. Or help stretch it, help get rid of the pain, stuff like that. So this is just kind of my personal stretching notes. Some of it does require some external devices that I'll show you later. But a lot of this can just be done normally. So we're just kind of go through them. And take this for what you will. If it helps you, it helps you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's what's gotten me here with little to no issues with my wrist. And I say that, knock on wood. Something horrible doesn't happen to me. So I guess I can just do it sitting down. It's kind of weird doing stretching sitting down, but I guess that works. So the first one, good ones, prayer hands. Put your hands together. And you can see as I'm lowering my hands, you will get some tension and compression in the wrist. Oh, sorry. Before I start, understand, and I have another disclaimer, there's a difference between tension and compression. Tension is muscle. So it's like, all right, so kind of like how my wrists are. While I do feel like there's a bit of a stretch going on, I can still stretch it because the muscles kind of stretch to that point. Now, you have to understand that everyone is built a little bit differently, and there could be a point with, my foot. Here's my foot. I can't stretch it past this at all because it's bone on bone. Doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter how much I stretch or anything like that. It's simply my bones are in a way where I literally can't bend my foot any different than that. This applies to all stretching all over your body whatsoever. Some people have different shaped hip sockets, some people just have different shaped hips. It can apply to any bone, any joint, anything like that. So if there's stuff you can't do and you're like, this just hurts and nothing's happening, you're probably hitting the point of compression. And if we're talking about stretching, the healthy way to do stretching is essentially you stretch to the point of discomfort. And then at that point, you're going to inhale and exhale. I've always done it through my nose, like diaphragmatic breathing, 4 seconds in, hold at 4 seconds, let it out for 4 seconds, and then hold empty for 4 seconds. And it's like a 4-second cycle, they call it. But you essentially let your breath go in and out, in and out. And as it's doing that, your body should naturally push a little bit through that point of discomfort and then come back to it. And then go through it and then come back to it. And that's a very healthy way to stretch. Again, not just for the wrist, but for pretty much all body parts in general. And if you really wanted to go with like the canonical way you should be stretching, whereas however long you are doing strength training for, you should be stretching for. So if you're strength training for 1 hour, you should be stretching for 1 hour. Stretching is strength. Don't let anyone teach you they're different. They are different, but they're both a type of strength. You need one to have the other. It's just like how if you have too much flexibility, that's actually considered like a detriment. So with all that said, so the first one they're just called prayer hands. So again, as I'm lowering this down, and when I'm doing this quick, it usually looks like this. Essentially, I'm just putting my hands together, clasping them together, and lowering them. And that will generally put some stretch right in here. And then there's 3 ways to do these. Up, or like going down with them. If you have your hands out, going back towards you, we'll do a little bit different of a stretch. And then if you have them facing down and you pull them up, that will give you a different stretch as well. And actually going down to up is probably the strongest stretch out of these 3. And I'll try to, here, let me stand up for this. So, I'll pull them up to here, let it go, relax, pull them up, relax, pull them up, relax. Same thing with here, pull them back, up, down, down. And if you're wondering why my pinky won't straighten up ever, because I got it kicked out of the socket and went to the side, it was over here, and I kind of snapped it back in, and it never healed properly. If you're wondering about that. So I'll start off with the best stretch that I can ever tell you to do. Initially, it's a Tai Chi stretch, and initially I stole it from a priest. When I went to school, no one really taught Tai Chi or anything like that, except for like a local church. Some guy just said he knew it, and I was like, well, I'll try anything. I'll figure, fuck, if I have a chance to learn something, I can learn it from someone. So this is a technique he did there. It's just common in all of Tai Chi. So it's called the waiter stretch, and I can stand up and show you. Actually, it's going to be very difficult to stand up and show this. Can I kneel and show this? I can. Look at that. Look, just think I'm super tall right now, guys. So you got your hand out like a waiter, and I guess traditional Chinese stuff, they'd actually have like a teacup in here with some water in there. So your hand is as flat as you can make it. And the idea is I'm going to rotate this, and if you can see my elbow, I'm going to rotate this as much as I can, trying to keep this flat. And the idea is you can just like keep something in your hand. So it's out here. There's my camera. There it is. I'm going to try to keep it in my hand. And now, at this point, you should start feeling some tension in this point, right here. And so, as I'm rotating, and I just want to show you the rotate, because I am rotating with my wrist. I'm not just rotating like my whole body or anything. As my hand's straight out, I'm rotating with my wrist. And at this point, like, I'm feeling a lot on the outside of the forearm and the wrist. And for those that don't know, this would be my outside, because it's towards the outside of my body, and this would be the inside of my body. You want to talk about inside or outside? Inside. Thumb is the inside. How about that? Like this. So here we are. And at this point, you really can't make this go anymore. So at this point, you will raise the elbow and lower the hand. And I usually do it super quick, so I'm actually not like this. And you will come around like so. Let me try. I have to do like a half kneeling stance. So, here we are. coming out like this, and like this. And the idea is to keep the, I don't want to say tension, but to keep the stretch on this corner of the wrist the whole way through. This is what has, like, always given me a very good stretch every single time. Anytime I have, like, I can't say it's carpal tunnel, but anything like carpal tunnel or any type of wrist pain, this has really, really helped me get through everything. By far, it is my most useful stretch that I've ever learned. So, it's just the way to stretch. And yeah, like, I always call it, like, I can feel like stretching the nerve. But when you do this, like, I feel just the entire right side light up as I do this. So it comes around, and it keeps on circling like this. And I just keep on circling, keep on circling. You'll probably feel it in the pinky. You'll feel it in these tendons right here. You'll feel it all the way down here. And then you do it the opposite way. And then you should feel the stretch on the other side of the wrist. So this one, you start off by going underneath. And then you'll raise up and it'll come up like this. And you'll keep rotating like this. This is the small version. The small version doesn't get that. It still gets you some stretch. But I notice if you're angled out a little bit, as you do this stretch, you'll get a much deeper stretch. And then you can do it on both sides, right? And that's like, this with traditional Tai Chi practice. Will be like this. Let's see if I can actually fit this in the camera now. So this hand's going to go down. Let me try to... Right? And it looks like some really weird dance. And then you can go opposite or anything like that. Anything like that. This is probably, like I said, this stretch has helped me in my life the most. If you have to do one stretch, do that one. So again, that's just, yeah, that's from Tai Chi. I will actually have to move the camera to the ground for this next one. And this is probably the one you did, Racuna, that you were talking about. Don't mind if the room looks a little dirty. If you can see under my bed. Oh, what's under my bed? What is it? The dagger!
That's my That's my dagger.
It's her dagger!
I'm making sure there's no butts anywhere.
Your butt's on the stream!
Oh, it's right here. Okay, hold on.
It's right there, your booty!
There's no booty!
Yeah! Doesn't matter. So, alright. So, let me try to get my knees in here. So this is the neck stretch. I'll start by being like, man, it's hard to see my whole body. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see it? I gotta come out here. So, at first, you'll probably be forward more, just because at this point, this is a very tough stretch. You'll put basically your hands vertical, and then you'll gently sit your butt down, and you should definitely feel a stretch of that. You may have more flexible hands than me, but you'll still start feeling it. So this is a very simple one, and what I like about this one is you control it with your whole body by sitting down. And then a secondary stretch from this is that you lift your hands off of the ground. You just use your fingers, and then you try to get your forearms as flat as they can. So here, I'll bring down the camera, and I can show you at this level. So my fingers are facing towards me. Here's where I am, where I'm shifted forward more, and here's where I'm just sitting back. As I start sitting, I get more and more of a stretch. And then at this point, this is where I will lift my palms off the ground, and I'll start getting a stretch like that. So that's another very simple stretch. That's pretty effective. It's usually a lot stronger because you're using your body weight on it. So, yep, that's the second one. about this? Sorry, there's another one. So, and you know what? Let me just hold the camera with one hand as I show you this one. As you're doing this, and this can be done this way or this way, as you're putting weight on that while you're kneeling on the ground, you'll notice I can rotate my elbow in and out. This one will help. You really can't do it that way. So yeah, just fingers forward. I'll do this one lightly. You really won't feel it too much, but it does strengthen everything in the forearm and the wrist. A very minor one to do, and it really does help. While we're on the ground here, I'll just do a couple more. Let's try to get this. So, this one again, you're on your shoulder or you're on your knees. You'll put one hand facing one way and one hand facing the other way. So both my palms are facing to the right, but one is palm up. This one's palm down. Let's see if I can get a good angle for this one. It's gonna be hard. Let's go back a little bit. There we go. So as I'm putting weight, one, and they're even, it's going to be hard to see from this angle, but my palms are even. And as I'm putting weight on both of them, I'll usually put my weight a little bit harder into my palm up hand. And just stretch it. It's hard to see how my body's moving, so I apologize for that. But as I'm pressing down on it, man, it's really hard to do physical activity in a room and a camera you're not really used to doing physical activity for. It doesn't really get a good angle in the monitor. Another one? Can this work? It's back tilt. Whoa! Don't look at my mic. Let's get this out of the way. Yeah, this works. So this one's palm up. It's straight. I'm putting weight on this one. This one's palm down. Let me try to get into the picture. And I'm putting weight into the palm up for a stretch. I'll reverse the hands, and then I put weight into the other. And go back and forth. If you want, and usually most people don't do this. You can do like crane push-ups, they're called. I wouldn't recommend those for anyone that's like not really doing push-ups or anything like that. But if you ever put weight on your wrist, you don't want to put it out here. You want to put the weight closer to basically where the wrist actually meets, like the wrist and the forearm goes into the ground. So if you're doing crane push-ups, it's gonna be hard to do them in here, but we just push this shit over here. You're doing crane push-ups. Again, don't put the weight into like where the fingers are at. You put them to where they're right below the wrist, so that you can just do push-ups like. And then usually you'll want to do those and then kind of straighten their wrist out the other way, because that will put up a lot of tensions onto the wrist. Let's see here. What's the next one? I'm kneeling. Fingers towards you. Sit down. Yep. Up and down. Okay. This one's always done me good too. This one can actually be done standing up. So I usually do both hands, but try not to push just your hand straight out and make it flat. There needs to be a slight bend in it, and I've always done, I think they call them Buddha hands. But basically, I'll straighten just the finger and the thumb. But you can straighten the whole hand. But you can see there's a slight bend in my arm. I'll do this, and then I rotate from the shoulder. Like, so when I'll tell you to rotate clockwise and counterclockwise. Don't do it with your hand. Don't do it with your wrist. Do it with the shoulder. And as you go down, like right there, I feel a lot. It's basically when I was doing this stretch, I feel the same stretch on the inside of my wrist at this point. And then I'm moving from my shoulder, and you should feel the nerves down here activate, and that's what I feel the stretch on. And so I usually do this both left and right, going forward, going backwards. And that's like I can feel the stretch from the inside of my armpit all the way to the tips of my fingers on that one. Palms out rotations. Did that one. Top of wrist push-ups. We talked about that. The thumb grab. This is an awkward stretch at first. It's going to be hard to see it. But basically, I'm going to be grabbing this thumb in my hand like so. It's really hard to see it, and it's even tough to explain to people in person. So over the internet, it's going to be tough. But I'm grabbing my wrist and my thumb. And then there's two stretches you do. There's this one, and you're pulling this down and out. Let me lower the camera so I can actually do it properly. Like that. And then I'll do it like that. Then you switch sides. Like that. So that's another one. Thumb grab. We talked about the palm down, fingers forward, then body forward. Yep. Rotate elbows while on the ground. Yep. The next one, they just call them darting fingers. So I guess I can show you head on it first. But the important part here is to always focus as well on the counter stretch. So as I dart my fingers down, I'm also thinking about raising my wrist. So if you look at it from the side, this is going to go this way, and this point is going to go this way, so that it looks like a circle. So and now when I dart my fingers up, like that. And then you can do it left to right as well. And this one will be better forward. So as my fingers go that way, my wrist is going to go the opposite way. Or at least I'm focusing on the wrist going the other way. So I'm focusing on my fingers going like this, and my wrist going that way as well. And then you can do... Eventually, you should work it back to the elbow and the shoulder. And it's basically a whole arm stretch. Okay, so we got starting fingers, grabbing the thumb. There's this simple stretch. I'm kind of just grabbing my wrist, and I'll be pulling it in. It's kind of like the reverse of the prayer hands we did at first. So there's that side. We do this side as well. This also works in a secondary way. I will be putting the thumb like between my index and pinky bones, and then I'll be grabbing the meat of my hand like so. And this one, I just have like this, and it's just like reverse prayer hands, and I'll be pulling this one down. And this is actually a pretty good stretch. Again, and I'm also trying to rotate it I guess it would be clockwise. So these are really quick ones. Go like this, go like this. There's just the basic one, interlace your fingers. A funny thing you can do with this, and it makes it feel very awkward, is you can lace them like you normally do. Like, everyone has an inherent way of lacing their fingers together, but then lace them the other way, and it'll feel very awkward. But you just rotate your hands, and again, it's kind of like a figure eight, like so. So, and again, even though you're focusing just on like rotating your wrist, like your fingers one way, think about rotating the wrist as well with it. That will completely change the stretch. So this one kind of looks like this. And then you can do it backwards as well. If you ever do one thing one way, do it the other way. It just balances it out. Trying to think. How can I show this one? I'll try to do it over here. That's my bathroom. Now, I'm probably going to have to stand away from the mic. Oh, I have to move my mic just so you guys can hear it, or hear me. It's a wall stretch. So I'll put my hand on the wall. I gotta see if I can get it in camera. Yeah, that's in. It's close enough in camera. But basically, you're just gonna put your hand against the wall, and with your the rest of your body, you're gonna rotate it the other way. So up here. There you go. Camera's right there. I don't know if I can get in front of it, but my hand's going to be like this. It's going to be fully extended. And I'm going to look the opposite way. And let's say I'll just put my hand way past the wall just for demonstration's sake. Look all the way that way. That one's a little hard to show because I really don't have a wall that's the right distance away from me. But it's very simple. You're just putting your hand against the wall. And this time you would keep your arm straight. And then you're just going to look the other way and stretch. That will also stretch the shoulder area as well. Especially if you start really turning, then you should feel it right here. And then that works as well. Do it all three different ways. So fingers up, fingers out, and fingers down. And you should get a slightly different stretch each way. I think that is all of... Let me just go over all these. Sorry, I got a bunch. Prayer hands, reverse prayer hands. Oh, shit. I forgot about the most simple one. Of course. So, the most simple one is just like a wrist rotation. Chinese call it Hyun Sao, at least that's what it's called in Wing Chun. It's really good to see from the side. But as I'm rotating my wrist, I'm not just rotating my wrist like this. As the wrist sinks and the fingers point up, then I'm keeping both sides going the full direction as I rotate. So again, I'm not just taking my hand, I'm not just dropping it. I'm pushing the wrist down, I'm pushing the fingers up, and then I'm rotating while pushing them in opposite directions. And then at this point, just your hand really can't go that way too much. You'll come back the other way. And if you're just rotating your wrist, you will actually not feel much unless you're doing the opposite as well. So that's why I'm really trying to describe what I'm doing with the other side of my hand. It's not just this and just rotating your wrist in a circle like a madman. I'm sure that helps, but when you go like this, you'll feel the tendons and ligaments engage, and you'll feel much more of a tighter stretch. They call it dog licking the bowl. is what it's called. It's like a dog's tongue as it's licking a bowl. And so it's just like it's reaching up or painting the inside of a bowl. You're trying to focus on the outside of the bowl as you're rotating the inside of the bowl as well. Yeah. That's just very simple. And if you ever stretch too much one way, always stretch the other way. And always, like, if you're really bending, then always bend, like, out as well. Always give your ligaments and everything just a chance to breathe the opposite way. We went over the waiter stretch, the kneeling stretches, the normal bend. Get your palms get your palms off the ground, fingers still on the ground bend while you're kneeling. The elbow rotation, palms out, shoulder and wrist stretch, top of wrist push-ups, the thumb grabs, the darting fingers, grabbing the meat of the thumb both ways, pushing the wall. Yes. Okay. So now is the stuff where Rakuna's like, oh, don't bring out the nunchucks, don't bring out any of that stuff, but understand that they really do help, and you can do it in very simple ways. So I just got a normal stick here, and basically you're just using this as leverage. So if you got a very tight wrist, I'll just isolate this and go back and forth. And sometimes I just give it a little bit more pressure just to stretch it a little bit. Just a little bit. Just to help stretch it past its point. And as I grab farther down, obviously it's going to pull more leverage as I'm pressing farther on the stick. But just simple stuff like this does help. Yeah. And basically depending on where you grab it and how much leverage you give it is how much strength it's going to have. With the stick as well, and this is basically what I use nunchucks for. Nunchucks kind of do the same thing. I think physically they provide the exact same amount of force if it's the same length. Okay, we're good. The thing about the nunchuck is that because it has a chain in it, sometimes you'll get a little bit of a pull, and that kind of does help depending on how good or bad you are at them. It kind of does, again, give it a little bit more of a stretch. Oh my god, who's doing this? I have no idea who did that. Who dares interrupt my stretch lesson? Yeah. So you can do it with the stick, and it's just figure eights, right? I'm going up on an angle like this, down on an angle like this. And you'll see it's a lot like the wrist stretches we did before, but with a weight. So let me try to get this way. But basically up and up. And the figure eight is this way, correct? So it's very simple. Just figure eights up, and you can do figure eights down as well. Basically, that's what I do with the nunchucks as well. It's the same thing. Let's see if I don't kill my speaker cord. But it's very simple. And it's all in the wrist. It's just a big wrist stretch. That's all I really use it for. And then down, it's the same way. Just like that. So you're just doing a wrist stretch. You can just do it on the outside. So this is the don't think just figure eights. Again, with the stick, you can keep it on the outside or you can keep it on the inside, right? So if I'm looking at you, this is my outside. And if you you can either hold the pinky and index down for a little bit harder of a stretch, and you can let it go for a little bit looser of a stretch. And then inside, whoa. It's all just wrist stretch, really. Outside. What? And then inside. Why are you putting the junk right away?
I just am a little nervous.
You messed up the camera. It's out of focus. She broke the camera! I also have a set of size. Again, this is probably what's strongest for me for wrist strengthening. And it's very simple. All I do is basically flick from this angle, and then you're going to high, medium, low. The more you isolate it, the stronger it feels. It's a wrist strengthening workout, because the side does have weight, and it does have weight at the tip. So you'll see, like, it goes a little bit past where I want to stop it. That helps the strength and a stretch. Are we learning Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? We're learning the stretches for weapons that have no use anymore. And this one's already actually making my wrists feel, they're starting to warm up. So that's actually really, really good for strengthening. And a cheap-ass pair like this doesn't run a lot if you just want to buy it for wrist strengthening. And then there are a couple staff things that I employ as well. So, and I can kind of show you up close with the stick, but you can use a broom, use whatever the hell you want. But as you're doing techniques, the hand and the wrists will rotate as well. So you don't just hit with it, you rotate it as you're doing it. You can use a stick, or you can use anything like that. A lot of old weights, like I did this as a kid, my brother had some weights when he did boxing, and it would have basically a hole through the center with a string attached to a weight, and you'll just bring it up with that and then lower it. You can use a stick like that. A staff just provides more weight, but it does the same exact thing. Whereas I press down, you'll see my wrist, I don't just press down. Both my wrists will rotate down, and then if I bring it up, they will both rotate up. So this actually provides, even something like this is just a very light staff. Just rotating your wrist like this with a little bit of leverage really does help it out. It strengthens it. There is some flexibility. But yes. So, yeah, it's really, the wrist, what did you call them? Wrist rollers? Yeah, basically you just roll them forward. You can do it with a stick or a staff or a broom or whatever. And then rotate it the other way as well. Those are all strengthening exercises. The weapons really strengthen more than they do stretch, but they do a little bit of both, and they both help. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I'm going to put these away. But, Raccoon, I don't know if you're still there, but do you have any questions on them? Wrist rollers are good for training. The top side of your forearms are a little hard to work out. Yeah. Almost everything here, anything that deals with the wrists, you're almost going to always deal with the forearm as well.